Willkommen. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sean Huggins and this is React with Hugs. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we are checking out a video called, Is Germany About to Bring Back Conscription? Mandatory conscription? In Germany? Huh? I don't know anything about this, so I'm going to find out together alongside you guys. But let's waste no more time yapping and just hop straight into it. Los geht's.
Is Germany on the verge of bringing back compulsory military service? In a recent interview, Germany's defence minister, Boris Pistorius, said the government may have no choice but to bring back mandatory conscription if Germany's new military volunteer scheme fails to meet recruitment goals. And it's not just talk. A new bill is in the works, which may be ready by January 2026. So in this video, we're going to have a look at Germany's voluntary military service scheme, why it probably won't work, and whether this might force the return of mandatory conscription.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Let's start with a little context on how mandatory military service has changed in Germany and Europe in the past couple of decades. During the Cold War, when thousands of Warsaw Pact tanks were expected to pour through the Fulda Gap, compulsory military service existed in nearly every European country. In West Germany, conscription was introduced in 1956, and until the 1990s, the West German military, the Bundeswehr, had nearly 500,000 troops.
Damn.
However, beginning in the early 2000s, many European states phased out conscription in favour of professional volunteer.
Effective end of conscription. So basically, looks like Germany ended in 2010? Holy crap. Okay, a lot of people all the way up through the 90s even.
Armies.
Interesting.
The reasoning was that the post-Cold War security environment no longer warranted mass mobilisation. In 2011, under a CDU-CSU-FDP coalition government, Germany suspended conscription, though it never removed it from the constitution, and was one of the last countries in Europe to do so. As a result, the size of the Bundeswehr shrank dramatically, and today troop numbers stand at around 181,000.
Yeah, but it was already shrinking a great deal in the 90s when they still had conscription all the way up until here. So actually, it doesn't look like it really dropped since they ended conscription. So I feel like those two things aren't really correlated.
1,500. Whereas in 1990, West Germany alone was able to field 215 combat battalions, by 2015, even with Germany reunited, that had fallen to 33. A remarkable 84% cut.
Damn.
Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, this downsizing, accompanied by a stagnation in recruitment numbers, caused some serious anxiety amongst military officials who warned that the country needs to be war-ready within the next 5 to 8 years. This, combined with the Trump administration's recent disengagement with Europe and NATO's updated defence spending requirements, prompted the new German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, to commit to a massive increase in the size of the German army and its defence budget. Facilitated by more borrowing. To meet NATO targets, senior German officials now estimate around 80,000 more professional soldiers will need to be enlisted over the next 10 years. To this end, in the coalition agreement the CDU struck with the SPD, Germany agreed to introduce a new model of military service. Based on Sweden's volunteer model, the government's new recruitment scheme will see eligibility questionnaires sent to all German 18-year-olds.
Oh, damn. Okay, so as soon as you turn 18, you're going to get a little pamphlet in the mail saying, hey, come on over here, buddy. We got a lot of fun stuff for you.
A percentage of whom will then be invited to join the Bundeswehr. The reintroduction of military service in this way was considered far more politically palatable than reintroducing conscription in one fell swoop, as the CDU had been pushing for. And it's something that Pistorius had been pushing for a while, formalising a nearly identical scheme last autumn, before his plan to do so was scuppered by the early election. However, while the programme aims to recruit about 5,000 volunteers annually, there's already concerns that it'll fall short. Years of underfunding have left the Bundeswehr crumbling and neglected, and just simply not an attractive enough career to pull in young people. The average age of the German soldier is now 34, and creeping upwards. Even with perks like free train travel, medical care and advanced training programs, a tight labour market means that young people are looking elsewhere. often for better paying private sector jobs, which explains why the Bundeswehr has had particular struggles recruiting for tech critical roles like IT, engineering and aviation. It's also been struggling to retain existing soldiers. In 2023, for instance, 18,800 people enlisted, but over 25% of them quit during the initial 6-month trial period. And while 2024 saw a record number of applications, up 18% from the previous year, nearly 3,000 soldiers still left the force.
Damn, 3,000 soldiers left the force.
A steep jump from the 200 who left in 20...
Oh, okay, here we go. So this is Bundeswehr soldiers leaving. Holy crap, 3,000 people left. Dang, every year it's getting more and more. Huh? Why are so many soldiers leaving? Interesting.
21. We should say here that Germany isn't the only country struggling with recruitment. In 2022, Czechia succeeded in recruiting only 176 new soldiers.
Whoa.
And in 2023, the UK experienced a net loss of 5,600 personnel, with more service members leaving than joining. Anyways, as a result, senior German lawmakers, particularly those in Merz's CDU party, have argued that Germany needs to immediately introduce compulsory enlistment. And Pistorius, despite being the champion for the voluntary plan, has also said that Berlin won't shy away from a return to full conscription if numbers don't significantly improve, and is planning to include such a provision in a bill which will be presented to Parliament after the summer break.
Damn, that's crazy. You know, it's always the rich old politicians that want to send the children and the young adults into battle and stuff. Like, that's so weird to me.
But how easy will it be to actually bring back universal conscription? Well, technically speaking, reintroducing it would be relatively straightforward. The suspension of conscription in 2011 was never formalised by removing it from the Constitution, so it could be reactivated without a major legal overhaul. That said, the politics are tricky, and there are still 3 challenges for Merz & Co here. First, the bill might struggle to gain enough support in Parliament. For instance, while conscription for men is still enshrined in the country's basic law, for this to be extended to women by way of an amendment, a 2/3 majority would be needed, meaning the governing coalition would need approval of the Greens and Left Party, the latter of which is fundamentally opposed to conscription. Merz and Pistorius will also need to convince SPD lawmakers who historically have been more keen on voluntary conscription. Second, Pistorius has admitted the Bundeswehr does not yet have the barracks and manpower to train hundreds of thousands of young conscripts each year anyway.
That is a good point. I mean, if they bring all these new recruits in through mandatory conscription, is it even going to make a difference if you don't have the infrastructure and the processes in place to actually train them?
The army currently has 15,000 available spots for voluntary military service, and around 10,000 of those are already filled. Bringing in hundreds of thousands of new recruits could strain resources and undermine operational readiness. Finally, young Germans are quite anti-military. A recent YouGov poll found that whilst 54% of Germans support reintroducing conscription, only 1 in 3 people aged 18 to 29 are in favour.
Dude. Okay, now, see, this is what I'm talking about. Over 50% of Germans are in favor of military conscription, but only 1 out of 3 people that are actually of that age are in favor of it. So it's freaking old people that want other people to do the dirty work for them, which is just a story as old as time. That's just terrible. I hate that.
Compared to 2/3 of those over 70.
Oh, the infographic wasn't done. 2/3 of people over 70. Oh my God. What's that saying where it's like the best people are the ones that plant the trees, that they will never they'll never sit in the shade of the trees that they plant or something like that. Yeah, these people are the opposite. They're 70 plus, 70, you're 70 years old and you're like, yeah, send that 18-year-old to the Ukraine front lines. Mandatory. What? Bro. Oh, dude, that is so unsettling.
This might partly
Why
explain
are old
the
people
appeal
like
of
that?
parties that describe themselves as pro-peace, namely the far-right AfD and far-left Die Linke, becoming extremely popular among young people after nearly half of voters aged 18 to 24 cast their ballots for these two parties.
Dude, half of the votes from 18 to 24 were either Die Linke or AfD. Yo, the two completely different sides of the spectrum. That has to be studied. Something's going on there. That's crazy.
In the parliamentary elections in February. Both parties oppose arming Ukraine and are somewhat sceptical of NATO. And a study by the University of Amsterdam found that the voter base of these radical parties are generally less inclined to fight for their country compared to those who back Merz's centrist CDU. So, to avoid returning to compulsory conscription, the Bundeswehr will need to make military service more attractive through better pay, conditions, and career prospects. If they're unable to do so, then perhaps a return to conscription may very well be on the cards.
Wow, really interesting stuff. It always makes me sad to see old people that are just old and bitter and want to send young adults and, in some cases, basically kids off into war to fight their battles for them. But even just like burning the whole job market down or burning the whole economy down for the younger generations, hoarding all of their wealth, changing all of the laws in all the Western countries. It's just weird. Old people, bitter, old, evil, old people are just weird to me. And it just sucks that they have to ruin everything for the younger generations. Anyways, that was a fun video. So I'm curious what you guys, the experts, have to say. Let me know your thoughts. Leave your mustard down in the comment section below. And when you're done there, consider subscribing, leaving a like, all that good stuff for the algorithm. Thank you in advance. But that being said, that's all the time that I have for today. So thank you guys just for being here. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.